And let's finish this, the 7th chapter of The Mystery of the Cupboard. We are deep into Jessica Charlotte's journal. She is telling the story of how she stole the key to the jewelry box, and it was the last day she was going to be allowed to see her niece, Lottie. She took her for a ride in the parade on a horse, and we will pick up from the paragraph break. I made my key that night, as pretty and dainty as the original, and something stronger than I kept my tears at bay, so I could finish it off with my nail file, smoothing the rough bits. And as I fashioned it, I fed into it some of my gift. I know now that I did this, though I hardly knew it then. I only knew I was bending all my strength on making the key perfect, and I felt something go out of me. And then the key grew warm again in my hands, as if freshly poured, and I knew it had power in it to do more than open boxes. But I didn't know what. I only knew my heart had broken, and that I would have given anything to have it be yesterday and not today. I looked at it. It shone like silver, and behind it I seemed to see the aquamarine drops, frozen like my tears, that I had not shed yet. I saw in it a thing of power, into which I had poured more than lead. And when I was finished, I cried at last. I cried myself to sleep, and I had a very strange dream that even now I can remember, so clearly that I believe it was no dream. But it is not part of this story. Perhaps the future reader will know what I am speaking of. Maria and Matthew had a telephone now. The next day I made my very first telephone call from a public instrument. Maria answered. "Oh, Jessie, I'm glad you telephoned. I wanted to thank you. Our little girl was thrilled." For a moment I thought she would relent. But to make matters crystal clear, she said sweetly, it was the best parting gift in the world. I felt my heart grow hard again. I didn't telephone to be thanked. I want to come and say goodbye. But we agreed. In any case, Matt has taken her to visit his sister. To say goodbye to you. To me? She said, startled. But Matt doesn't mean that you and I should never see each other. I am going abroad, I said grandly. Of course this was a lie. Oh, where? Far away. You don't need to know where. But I do. You've never needed to know where I live in London, I said with a trace of bitterness. She was silent. Then she said, Well, come then. Come now and we'll talk. It won't be goodbye, surely. We'll meet again. I couldn't imagine life without you. Silly, shallow girl, I thought. You seriously imagined you could deprive me of Lottie but keep me for yourself. You want it all as you always did, but now you'll find everything has its price. I went into her beautiful house, where I had known the only happiness of my adult life for the last time, and there in her boudoir I did the deed. She once told me the word boudoir means a sulking room in French. Is there a word for a stealing room? I sat calmly, waiting for her to leave me alone. I knew she would. I had arranged it. The maid who always let me into the house was also the one who would bring us our usual tray of tea. When she had opened the door to me, I pressed a pound note into her hand, a fortune, and said, Milly, when the mistress rings for tea, pretend not to hear. Yes, miss, she said, looking absolutely dumbfounded. And she gave me my pound's worth. Maria had to leave the room to find out why no one came when she rang, and in those few minutes I crept into the adjoining bedroom, opened the jewel case, whose hiding-place I knew well, snatched the aquamarine earrings, and closed it again. Then I slipped back to my usual chair by the window. I had done it so often in my imagination. My heart was not even beating fast, nor my breath coming short. I remember thinking calmly, I seem to be a born thief. I felt then not one trace of guilt, not then. I said my farewells to my sister quite coolly. I pretended I was going to America. My mind and heart were numb of thought and feeling. The earrings were mine. The score seemed settled. A pair of earrings in payment for my darling Lottie. Well, I was mad at the time. Mad against my sister, against my life, mad with a grief that even after last night's outburst of weeping I hadn't let myself feel yet. You, reader of the future, before you judge me, be sure you are not subject to fits of temporary madness during which you may do terrible deeds, with consequences as yet undreamed of. And that's the end of chapter 7.